Good evening, everyone, and thank you for your patience. As you can see, we're learning and we're growing, trying to get this thing together. My name is Kathy. I am the current president of the Black Economic Union. I want to welcome everybody here tonight for this awesome presentation. We have one of our local premier artists, Mr. Michael Brantley. He has an amazing art gallery here with us. He has shared with us a lot of his good works, and there's a lot more to come. So this is just a sampling of some of the things that he can do. So tonight we wanted him to take a minute, talk to us, get to express his vision, how he comes about doing these pieces. Also, the theme is Charlie Bird. So questions, answers, just get, can you hear? Okay, good job. Can you guys hear me? So tonight is really informal. We just want everybody to come out, kind of see what we have here. Some things are coming as we go through the next couple of months for Easter. Michael will still be with us, so there's a lot to come. I'm not going to take too long, so I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Braylon. She will make an introduction for us. Braylon Page is also with the Black Economic Union. She's been with us for about 2 years now. This is almost her 3rd year. So thanks again. Enjoy the show. Please make it interactive. It is an intimate setting, and that's kind of what we want to do tonight. So you can go back and talk to your friends and relatives and let them know what we have available for you. Okay? Thanks a lot. Michael, Braylon.
Okay, sure. Thank you, Miss Kathy. Good evening, everybody. How y'all doing? Great. Okay, Mr. Coleman's the only one doing great. How y'all doing? Thank you. All right. As Ms. Kathy said, my name is Braylon Page. I'm a fellow with the Black Economic Union. I've been blessed enough to be here for about 3 years, and it's been a great opportunity to interact with the Kansas City community and just learn more about what you all have going on. I'm not native to Kansas City, so it's been a real treat to be introduced to the culture and community here, including the amazing art scene here. So it's a pleasure to have you here with us, Michael. Thank you so much for taking the time to have this really intimate setting, just so we can really tap into your mind to see what was going on when you created all these beautiful artworks. And I really hope you guys take advantage of really asking and tuning in to what Michael has going on. And so without further ado, I'll turn it over to our man of the hour of the night, Mr. Michael Brantley. Thank you all so much.
All right. Thank y'all for coming out. Okay, so I guess the point of the conversation is to explain what my process was and why I chose Charlie Parker. So I can do it this way. Symbolism is important in this world, and the black figure is a figure that hasn't been, positively symbolized over the past. So for years, I remember as a young boy, my grandmother used to have these banners of Martin Luther King and John F. Kennedy in her house. And these banners represented people that inspired them and made change in America. So over the years, I would watch, I remember watching a Spike Lee movie, and they went into a boardroom, and the guy in the boardroom had these 24 by 36 images of black men. It was Mike Tyson, it was Michael Jordan. And from that period of time, to actually see a movie and see black men represented in a positive light in the movie was kind of inspiring to me. So like I started out doing portraits. So earlier in my development, most of my work were dealing with portraits, trying to get a character out of an individual. So over a period of time, I made a name for myself doing pieces in the Jazz Museum. And some of these pieces are represented in this exhibition. Like Jazz Then and Now, I added some pieces of artists that were around this area around the time when King was swing was king, and Kansas City was the hottest place in America with jazz. Why Charlie Parker? Well, I remember seeing these images of Charlie Parker on cartoons, because cartoons was a way of showing what was popular in that area. When I tried to listen to Charlie Parker, of course, I didn't understand the music. It was a lot going on. So I kind of gravitated towards artists that didn't play a lot of instrumentation. So after a while, I would hear people make references of Charlie Parker as being a genius. And it kind of made me want to know what made him so genius. And I would look, because you would think he's just like any other celebrity, but the genius of Charlie Parker was a lot different. He was a young guy. He was a young prodigy growing up in the jazz era. And he started his own group at 15 and started performing around town. And he got some notoriety and got access at one point to play with some of the legends. And there's stories that they tell you about Charlie Parker being gonged by Joe Jones. And the story continues where he went off into the woodshed and started learning his craft. At that point, Charlie Parker learned most of what it took to play the saxophone well. So when the exhibition, I did the Hawk, and that piece is over there of Hawkins. He was the first saxophone player that was actually known. He was like the guy that people used to look to, and this was before Parker came up. And around the corner, let's go back. So the purpose of this exhibition is to kind of shine light on Charlie Parker and teach other people who Charlie Parker is and kind of re-enlighten people to what he did. So the first part of the exhibition, I actually incorporated Bobby Watson, because he's the one got me to understand what made Charlie Parker a genius. And I would try to listen to the music, not understanding what it was. But when he came in December, he added the element of, he played the music. If he were here, you got an understanding of what made Charlie Parker such a legend. The complexity in which he played the saxophone, and it was a time when most music was played for the dance floor, swing, and entertainment. Charlie Parker was the one who broke the mold from that. If you try to listen to bebop music, which he ended up being a pioneer of, you can't dance to it. So what he basically did was took jazz from the dance floor and made it a more cerebral in context. You listen to the music more. Now my understanding of that is like with art, I actually use music to actually help me develop the work, and jazz music plays for a good period of time, and it actually can inspire the work. So the point was change the to actually bring the genius to a newer generation and show how Charlie Parker was instrumental back then. A lot of his contemporaries viewed him as one of the best. Before the internet, before, we have these great things in media, Charlie Parker was known all over the world, from spearheading bebop in New York. People would actually come in just to hear him play because what he was playing was more complex. What Bobby Watson kind of explained is that what he did was he took harmony and rhythm, and what you would hear in standard songs, the composition was straight through. What he developed in this technique that it was like a hybrid of what Hawkins was doing and what was the Prez, who was another guy who inspired him, and that's the reason why those pieces are in there. And he had a combination of those two. And what he did was basically freed the artists to become artists. There was a quote he said at one point. He said, "They teach you that there is a limitation to music, but there's no limitation to art." He actually put art into music. And after he spearheaded bebop, the music began to change. And not just for jazz music. What made him different than other artists is that he even inspired people who didn't even do jazz. A lot of artists, even hip hop artists, they contribute, like let's say Rakim, he contributes a lot of what he does to Charlie Parker. And actually, when you actually hear the music, it kind of sounds similar to that. So he had the iconic status, and I wanted to make sure that I kept, Charlie Parker's name alive with this exhibition, showing him in different forms. I used different formats: realism, abstract expressionism. This is sort of like what he did in music. It's a layering. Like each layer, each color has a different, comes in at a different time and makes a harmony. So what I did was, like with his music, I took, like where he would play two compositions at one time, I kind of did that and bringing abstract and realism together. So I used his methods of his technique and how he developed music in the way that I did the art. Some of the art is more realistic. Because what you would see in a portrait, and what I would try to get when I do portraits, is try to find a personality. And there's a few pieces of Charlie Parker that's on the internet there. And like with most jazz pieces, you see these jazz and you see them with instruments in their mouth. Well, basically what I do when I do portraits is I want to show a different side of them. I don't necessarily show them playing the instrument, or I just show, different aspects of it. So in here, he was pretty younger in these days, and that showed him at a younger age. He was a little older in this. This one is called Bird in Paris. This is when he was in Paris. He was actually, he was very popular back then. It's kind of hard to, it's like the status of a Tupac or something, you can understand that. He had that status Charlie Parker had back then, and he was performing in Paris and New York, and I wanted to show that aspect of him taking, because he was from Kansas City, taking what Kansas City has given and taking to New York and actually inspiring a whole generation of people there. Most of the people who have a lot of attributes to say about Charlie Parker is actually from New York. So the ideal comes in when we do an exhibition. It was supposed to be of words and how kinetic poetry, you can use poetry to form a vision. And that's the piece that's further back down there. It's of Charlie Parker. So what it was all the attributes that I'm trying to remember: genius, all the elements that they say about them intellectuals. I took those attributes and I made a piece that symbolizes bird. That's further down. If you actually, when you get a chance to go read the piece, start from the top and it'll rhyme. It'll be a poem all the way through. The words escape me right now, but if you read it, it goes into the poetry and it forms out the word bird. That started me wanting to compile the different artists that I did over a period of time into telling the story of Bird and how he influenced the world. And what I wanted to do was take him on different platforms. The kinetic poetry is done digitally, it's done in Photoshop, and eventually I'm going to take a few of these pieces and make them into NFTs. That way, it carries his name and his voice on, because I just don't think he get enough credit for what he has done to change music on a wide scale. And I think it's kind of hard to say that, for the general public, most people don't know it, because a lot of musicians, which this area is full of, they're taught the history of Charlie Parker, but most people don't see that, and that's the reason why I did the images here. So I hope that kind of explained everything, or why I do the portrait. So,
Have you talked to young people, because you've got a lot of art beyond your Charlie Parker pieces? Mm-hmm. Are they beginning to understand a little bit more about Charlie Parker?
They do. They wonder why I focus on jazz, and it's because I see it as what hip-hop was at that point in time. It was the greatest American export until hip-hop, and you see how now it is. Jazz was the same way. And I think in this city that is this is a blues town. And just for a period of time, jazz was king. And I think that we kind of lose that edge because we kind of want to move forward. And I see a lot of, because basically what it is fan art. So let me explain that. The difference between fan art and pop art is art of popular. Like now you do a Nipsey Hussle or you do a Tupac, and that's considered fan art. It's the same way with jazz, but only different to me, because it's a legacy that's gone, it's not celebrated. And a lot of times why I started doing it, because it shows the black man and he has a suit on, he's more presentable. And it was an opportunity to show a man in different light. And that's basically the purpose of why I do jazz moving forward.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
I would like to know, what made you get into art or painting in general? Why is this your medium of choice?
See, that's hard. I remember wanting to draw as a kid, and I remember when I met my stepfather, I found out he was an artist, and I asked him to draw a painting. And he drew a monster. I just came out of it, and he did it in 5 minutes, and that single thing kind of inspired me, because I'm like, how did he just come up with all that real quick? So over my lifetime, I've been trying to actually, not on purpose. I didn't know that I was actually painting that much, but people kind of tell me over the past. So art is just something that I've done so far. It's just like something I do every day. It's not even for profit. It's just for the fact that it's something that I do. But in the 90s, I ended up working around art. So about 10 or 15 years, I did framing. I sold other people's artwork, and back when the golden age of black art, I put a lot of art in the homes in Kansas City and Kansas City, Missouri. But a lot of the art that's driven with images of black people is not celebrated, is actually discouraged. So I take a lot of chances by actually creating black people. They tell me to do more abstract work, but that's the point, because I'm in that world. I'm not in this world, and that world is an abstract world. And it doesn't, and even when you see black artists who try to, ride the fence, I don't see black men. They say that the exhibition is about black men, but it doesn't symbolize a black man. When I paint these black men, and this is something I've been doing for the last 15, because the first part of my career, I did paint only women. And while I was working framing, I would talk to a lot of people and collect it, and they was like, well, it's not a lot of male art. So I kind of started with jazz and kind of it picked up. So I never got to move on to anything else. But just to put a black man's face in a gallery, and I have in certain parts of Kansas City, and watch the traffic, it's kind of interesting. You have to kind of look at it for yourself to see what it's saying. So my purpose is to put more images of black men in the positive, because when I actually started doing the history, you would look for images, and those images are not there. So I think that if I do abstract work or stop painting black men, who's gonna do it, you know? So just check out the art. It's only a few here, but tell me what you think about it. You can tell me what you like. You like the more abstract, you like the more detailed. A lot of people are different in what they like.
So do you have your favorite out of the collection here tonight? What would you say is your favorite?
This was actually the last one, and it became my favorite in the end. I actually started this piece, and then this one turned out so well, I made a duplicate of it, and then this was just abandoned. And so this is the one I did say, that's Bluebird. This is the one where he's in Paris, and he's playing. And I kind of wanted to put the atmosphere there without, bringing the ambiance of the room in there and giving it an abstract way. So it became a favorite to me. The one that, I love that one. I always loved that one. Because he's a cool guy. Every time you see him with the cigarette in his hand. So, and you see the smile, I kind of bring the character out of the people. And that's kind of what I saw when I did the piece.
So can we make this a little engaging?
Oh, they can, yeah, you can get up.
Can we walk and talk,
it's only a
and
few.
he can tell you a little bit
It's only a few.
pieces, and that way y'all can really understand the depth of what he's done.
So this Parker kind of affects a lot of people because it shows the personality. Obviously, a lot of guys who his age, they kind of appeal to it. Like Bobby Watson, he really appealed to it because it kind of reminded him of him in a living sense. I don't stop the paintings until they actually have a movement or, realism. And the thing about the pieces that I do of Parker, if you play his music, you can kind of get the feel of it. This piece I wanted to do, it's basically just like the portrait, but I just wanted to get his personality in. Now, he became known as the Alto King because no one else could do what he was doing. So this was kind of like, I was trying to get out of the thing of where all the jazz pieces reminds people of the past. And the more modern things like, let's say when Biggie Smalls, was murdered, they crowned him king of New York and they put the crown on his head. So it's in the same effect that this man was, a lot. Quincy Jones, Martin Luther King, all these people got quotes about Charlie Parker. I thought I was the first one to do this. And then about a month ago, I realized Basquiat he did it first. He did a whole exhibition on Charlie Parker, but just like I said before, there was no images of Charlie Parker. It was just a bunch of abstract. But that shows the level of respect that they have for him in the hip hop community and the art community. He's the intellectual. And so what I did here was I took his baby photograph and I put the king. He doesn't know he would be crowned king as a kid, but I wanted to do that, kind of humanize him,
Cool. This is one of my favorites.
Oh yeah, this is actually the first exhibit that I did at the Jazz Museum, and it was honoring the First Lady of Song, Ella Fitzgerald, and this is where I wanted to put emotion and pieces. This is more of the oil paintings. The oil paintings I play with a little better because it gives you time to walk away from it. You can kind of get the flow of the hair. I love it. But if you notice with these other pieces, I guess I should say that I didn't only just combine what I do most with the oil. That's acrylic, this is acrylic, and those are acrylic. They're a little faster, but it's kind of harder. or a little more frustrating. So this is more what my oral technique is usually. This is what I gravitate towards.
What's the time frame? How long does it take
That one actually took me two and a half months to do. Yeah.
you? Is oil harder to work with than the acrylic?
Yeah, it's a process. You got to really kind of understand the process. And the reason why I did this, a lot of the work was smaller, and this was my first shot at a show there, and I really wanted to knock everybody out the way. So I made the piece. So this is how I started painting, and they started asking me to reduce the paintings. And with this exhibition, I'm going bigger. Like I just did the piece at the Nelson, and it's about this size. I'm scaling up. I'm scaling back up because there's a lot of collectors who want a lot of smaller pieces because they already have a lot of pieces. So I understand that, but this piece actually made the paper. Of course it did. It was in the Star. It actually became controversial because the grandson of the guy who took the photograph, these guys take, and they make money off these photographs of these jazz artists, and the jazz artists don't make their money. Use their photographs, they'll go after you. He saw it in the paper, and he thought that they had the image, and he called them to take it down. I'm like, it's not taking it, that's an original painting. But that's how far that actually goes with that. Because I only painted her face, I didn't paint anything else into the piece. This is one that I'm still playing with. It's with acrylic. I can kind of stop it there, but it's kind of driving me to do more. And it's just like, I brought it out here to show you the process. Like this, when that dries down, it'll dry down to the consistency of the outside, and then you just keep going over layers and stuff like that. So this is what I do to get the more three-dimensional. Because a lot of people stop once they get to achieve the drawing, and I don't do that. I want to actually, this one actually killed me really because I was dealing with an angle, and then his eyes going in that angle, and then so you can't, you always find mistakes in it. So, and this was probably the largest piece that I was kind of working on, and I just wanted to do something different in that, move it faster. But so this shows the future. Like when I went into the digital, this is the piece that I was telling you all about. And it's called Charlie Parker, but it's a bird because he's known as Charlie Parker. So it was a poetry, kinetic poetry, cool, intellectual prodigy, jazz musician, penetrating ornithology, modern, complex, fearless, anthropology, uncompromising, brilliant, alto, melodic, artistic, improvisation, iconic, harmonic, hipster, revolutionary, bird influential, evolutionary, bop originator, composer, innovator, confirmation, legendary. Some of these are titles of his songs. Other are attributes that people gave him. He's very influential. And he started in Kansas City, so I had one of his feet down in Kansas City. And this is where he made his name in New York. So I thought that kind of told the story of Charlie Parker, and that was the one I submitted for that piece, and it kind of started the evolution of this. Now, amazingly, what's going on here is this film by Diallo French. He called me, he told me like in advance he'd been working on this. He's been working on it for a good 16 years, and after we did the show at the Nelson, he started promoting it, and he got everything he wanted after that. So at that point, he gave me a call. He was like, okay, I got the money now. So I had that, don't ask me how I did it because it's oil. I had to do this in 2 weeks. And then I had to do it with all these jazz legends. You got McFadden. He's performing now. These guys are still active. And I have everybody included in Tech Nine. I have the Charlie Parker. He didn't have a Charlie Parker back then, so we have to use these other images. So I used the image that would combine with what he's doing. Alita Adams. You got all these people represented. And he did a film. Now, the film that he used it for is actually a very good film. He had a screen down here. Last year, just before we had the show, they did the screening here. And I saw the pieces that he was doing over the years. It's a very good film. You really have to see it. It really tells the story with the musicians today. It's more people than that's on it. I just had to put certain people on there. But it talks about how the jazz era spawned a lot of different other groups from Kansas City, because it was almost like everybody came and gravitated towards the city, and they left behind children who grew up to become bigger things. And it's a very good film, and right now he's actually, I gotta get the name right. He's the film festival. What is it called? Begins with a P? Nah, he's on a, today, I think it is Can. He's getting screened for today for this in California right now. So that's actually taking place. And this is how me and him and other artists, this is the way we can do it. See, the thing is just like what you was talking about. When I got a chance to do the Nelson, I was gonna do something jazz related, but it was the time when George Floyd, so I kind of dealt with the issues, and it's because it had to be done that way. But so this is our way of moving Kansas City forward and bringing it and allowing other and younger people to see what we developed. This is my favorite, of course it is. This is Monk's Mood. See, he has these iconic photographs that every artist and their mama draw. But it was like everybody wants to draw them. It's not like you see nowadays, one artist draws something and other people draw. Now, there's certain jazz pieces you want to draw, but then it gets to the point now with the newer generation, you just stay away from them now. But I took the two and combined the two together. So the crazy thing about it, I did the piano playing first, because if you ever listen to Monk play, he hits these notes kind of oddly. So that finger kind of, if you know, that's what it was, but a lot of people didn't know that. So what I did was, it took me a year because I was scared I was going to mess the painting up. So no one ever saw the red painting, and then I said, last year I said, I gotta get this in the show. And the top portion only took 15 minutes to do. So I just wasted all that time. So it was actually, once you have the bass, it's kind of easier to do. So that's basically there. And here is Prez. I had to take it down to bring this other one in there. But this is the guy who influenced Charlie Parker. And the reason why it's cut off here is because everybody knows him from the saxophone. He has his head to the side and he wears his pork pie hat. I took any image and reference that anybody would know and see if they can judge him by his eyes. So that's why this piece was a hit. But the reason why I'm pointing it out is because when Bobby Watson was here, I just came in. You know, I left this on the stairs at the studio, and when he was talking about it, I'm like, oh God, so kind of missed the opportunity, so. So that's feel of what's going on. Oh, and this is the bop. I'm gonna continue this piece because it really needs to be more people in it. So, like, I fell in love with Miles Davis, and it was only 2 years ago that I realized he got his start with Charlie Parker. That was his first band. Which I need to say also, Charlie Parker got his start with Jay McShann's band. And he was the first band to integrate to play on the Country Club Plaza. So that's where he comes from. So over the years, you hear a lot about Dizzy Gillespie as another pioneer of bebop, and he gets a lot of credit because he was the showman. He still had that attitude towards that. Bird didn't. He didn't care. It was all about music. It was all about the art. He didn't care whether you danced, whether or not. So, but then you had, I would like to add Mingus because he became a staple. You got, of course, Monk. And those were the biggest people that was known in jazz, and I'm just trying to tell the story. It's all the way to this point. I'm gonna give it some real good detail. I'm probably gonna put a little gold in it because there's a story behind the saxophone. And the saxophone is that it's a acrylic saxophone. And Charlie Parker had lost his saxophone, and they gave him this acrylic saxophone to play. He said the sound that he was hearing in his head, he couldn't play it on a regular saxophone. When he got to this saxophone, he was able to put the notes. But if you see this saxophone, he made it popular, and it's only one. So he's known for that. He's known for a lot of things, and it's just so much I could say, but I wouldn't have the time. Just the stuff that Martin Luther King said. He said that Charlie Parker and jazz was the revolution that helped with the civil rights movement. And he even did a speech and dedicated, it was a song by Charlie Parker, and Now's the Time. And he credited Charlie Parker for that. So his influence is a lot, it goes a lot further than Kansas City, and I don't think Kansas City recognizes it. I don't think we recognize the jewels that we have here and the influences, because when people come from here, they obviously influence the other people to want to get out and move around. So I hope that did it. I hope I explained everything. This is the first piece I made up. It was a saxophone. I used no reference in that. I just kind of made it up. So that was the first one. I'll tell y'all that one. I just made that up out of my head. And I kind of changed the skin because when I first did it, he looked like Chris Rock. I took it to the show and the guy was like, it looked like Chris Rock. So I kind of changed the skin tone. So I'm learning and developing. But over the period of time and what I do want to give a reference to people that came before us and the music that came before us. So that's what the point of the exhibition is.
So how long is your art going to be available for viewing here at the gallery?
Don't know. Don't know.
Are you available anywhere else in Kansas City right now? You've mentioned the Nelson.
I had a show at the Nelson. I have one more show. Well, I have maybe one more show. I have maybe one more show here before I stop and do an exhibition on, because let me be honest, the works that I did at the Nelson was a little more issue driven, and I'm going to do an exhibition dealing with that work, and it doesn't really, here it's more of a struggle. Over the last year I had, from the Nelson, I had a lot of curators come in from Chicago and different places like that. So they want that work there. They think it's stronger than the jazz and everything, but if you hear, it's a totally different thing. And kind of, I feel constrained, because I feel like I have to say things. And when you do say those things, they try to ignore you, they try to do things like that. So even with the Nelson, at one point, we was all supposed to have banners. My piece didn't get a banner, but my piece was the only one that sold. So I'll tell you something. So there you go.
As you guys see, we're here.
Okay, let me finish that. See, I put the variety in there because if they let me have it, there's many different artists in this city, and you don't necessarily see them. A lot of them teachers, a lot of them are in school. They're doing the same thing that we do, and you don't see them out in public. So we're going to use this as an opportunity to bring the diversity of artists to Kansas City. Ryan, the developer who developed the idea, his point was to show the diversity in North Kansas City, and that's basically what we're going to do. I started it with bringing jazz, bringing 18th and Vine over this way, and that's kind of what I'm doing here.
Any questions?
Nope.
Thanks a lot.
We appreciate you guys coming. As Michael said, this is a beginning.
Yeah.
Something new. We're not trying to compete. We just want to be available and share the knowledge. And we find that these types of settings, like you say, the more intimate we are, the better the information can be shared. So if you're not sure, if you heard something, saw something, you've got him right here. He can tell you.
And support this gallery. It's nice. Just imagine when the patio doors open. So it's going to be some events going on here. It has its own patio. So yeah. Oh yeah, we're going to do a lot of things with the community here. Yeah. So
Private events. So we're going to be a little bit unique. We're looking for suggestions. If If there's something that you haven't seen or that you yourself think would be kind of interesting from an art perspective or an entrepreneurial perspective, please let us know. Talk to Michael, talk to any one of us from Black Economic Union. Send us a note. We're online. You can always share online. And we'd love to create out here and see what we can do together.
I was speaking to Barbara, and she was thinking about bringing not just an exhibit of artists, but bringing an exhibit of artisans, people who make bass violins and stuff like that. Just kind of expand the art community, because people think all artists are the same, and they're not. It's totally different, and it's a lot of artists don't get the recognition and do the hard work. So, especially those artisans. So look forward to that. Yeah.
Now I hear you say support the gallery, and I've seen on the website.
Oh, they are not for profit.
So that was my next
Yes.
my question. So how do you donate? I know it says to donate, but how do you go by?
So you can visit the blackeconomicunion.org. There's a donate button on that. Our mailing address is also on there. We are hiring a part-time staff at the moment, so we're here temporarily. But if you always feel to email us, personally have Michael's number, we can get to you. But the quickest way would be to go online to the website.
How many people know the Black Economic Union? Please give them that information, because it's very interesting. I found it very interesting. They're started by
Curtis McClinton,
NFL players, Jim Brown. This was big, and they're doing it. It is big, and it's in how many cities?
Right now, we're the last active organization. There were 9 locations. Come on, Braylon, you can share in this.
Yeah, so it's a historic organization. You just hear the name BEU, and nobody ever actually, but it's really big. You can go online and see it.
So we have, we've been in existence, this is 54 years here in Kansas City, 55 years. But it was birthed out of the Muhammad Ali issue that he had when he was being drafted. And the players, all the athletes, Jim Brown, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Bill Russell, they got together in an iconic picture.
Yes.
Where they came together to support Muhammad's ideology at that time. And from that, Jim Brown, he took the idea nationwide. He started in California, but each one of those athletes made a decision to consciously say, hey, I need this in my community. So Curtis McClinton from the Kansas City Chiefs is the spearhead for Black Economic Union that's here today. He's still with us. He's obviously retired. He lives in Texas with his family and his beautiful wife. So he does come in and out of town to grace us with his wonderfulness. But the vision was community. He served extensively within the housing, finance, and social programs to support the underserved and minority communities. So we're trying to follow that mission, make sure we do it as best as we can, but at the same time bring some of the new in the future. And part of the future is art and art entrepreneurship, specifically to the minorities. And that's, with your help, hopefully we can get that done. So we're active now, trying to move back to that national standing. So if you know anybody out there in another city who's interested, we're going to try to duplicate what we've done so far in the last 54 years and restore it. So, Raymond, do you have anything you want to add?
Hello. Yeah, I was just gonna say, BEU, we like to focus on like our 4 pillars, if you will. So small businesses, education, housing. What's our last one? I'm blanking. Social services. Here we are. Thank you. So there are different sectors to BEU. So if you know like young people or up and coming business owners, things like that, we're sort of like a hub, if you will, to get them to where they need to be. So it's kind of sort of like a one-stop shop, if you will. Like, oh, I have this business, I want to amplify, come to BEU. I need some affordable housing. Where should I go? Come to BU. So really, we want to just put ourselves out there as a place for everyone to just come and better themselves or whatever they need. So thank you.
And just a quick final. So for this, I hate microphones. I think he can hear me. So for this property here, as Michael mentioned, there was a development organization known as YARCO. They are very well known. They've got quite a few properties across the Kansas City metro area. We have engaged with them many, many years ago. This is our most recent engagement in the idea of a developer and the nonprofit trying to serve the community. So this piece that we have here, not just the gallery, the tenancy is designed to intermix market rate, mixed rate. Everybody's here. Everybody who needs a place has affordability here. But we're bringing in the pieces such as the programming, access to the Y next door, the entrepreneurial teachings and support is all here. We've got some young folks who were in the foster care, and they're about to age out or have aged out. So there are special units for them. Kind of like, I'm gonna age myself, when we had home ec, you had to learn before you go to school, go to college. So they're here in this property, surrounded by families, business owners, community activists, to support them on their next journey of life. So it's a lot going on in here, not the traditional, oh, I got a place to stay. So it's a nice place to be, and I hope you guys can come back and share with others. Okay? Thank you guys for coming. Please use Michael while we have him. There's lots of refreshments at the end of the hall. It's very informal. Like I said, we really want to hear from you because that will determine our next visit and how we try to share. Okay? So thank you all very much.
Thank you all for coming
All
to
right.
support me. Appreciate you all.